All right, well, in this video, I want to talk about planning your project. And this sequence that I use it for every project that I do, and I'm going to give it to you absolutely free. All right, well, look, one of the best ways to have success in any project that you do is to plan it out. Like I've said before, there's more to renovations than just grabbing a hammer and grabbing some paint and just going at it. You want to have a plan. And so I'm going to show you just the layout that I use. Doesn't matter what project I'm doing. Doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is. I use the same sequence for everything I'm doing, from just doing a basic renovation to building an entire house. So I'm going to give it to you because I want you to consider this. You don't need a fancy Excel sheet. If you want to take what I put here, I just use a piece of paper. Honestly, I just take a lined piece of paper and I just draw it out, and I use this same sequence every time. I'm not that techie to be using, Excel sheets and spreadsheets and all that wonderful stuff. But if that's you, then by all means, take what I give you on this paper, transpose it into an Excel sheet, and if that's you, by all means use it. But this is what I do when I sit down, even to plan a house. I'll sit down and I use these same simple steps on every one of them. All right, so you're ready to go. You need to have a pad of paper and a pen or something, or your keypad if you want to just start entering in. If you want to create an Excel sheet as we're talking about it, then have your computer all ready to go. But whatever it is you feel most comfortable with, me, it's pen and paper. In this case, I'm just going to use marker and my notepad. This is, oftentimes I have this up in my office and I just use it for thinking. I'll put it on my stand-up desk and I use it for thinking out loud. And I thought I'd just bring it down because I didn't feel like peeling my whiteboard off of my office wall to bring it out here. So we're just going this way. One of the things you'll realize when you're doing renovations, and if you're a contractor watching this, you can vouch for it. Sometimes you just write on anything. I've broken down boxes of cardboard boxes and written on the back of cardboard boxes. I've taken offcuts of 2x12s and taken my pencil and made my list, and off I go to the hardware store to get what I need, toting my big chunk of wood. It's almost back in the early days where we were using papyrus and tablets and stuff. So it's whatever you feel most comfortable with. The point is, you need to create a plan. If you start to write things out, create a plan, it's going to be much easier for you to decide A, what your budgets are, B, what you can really do, what you can't do, what you want to bring someone in to do, and it gives you a place to start putting the timelines and stuff together. But this is the basic thing to start with. All right, so the first thing I do is I write up here is design. Design and permits. Design and permits is the first thing, because depending on what you want to use or what you're going to do, you're going to have to get a design. If you're doing a house, obviously you can't be designing the whole thing yourself. You're going to have to get an architect. You're going to have to get a designer in. If it's a basement renovation, you'll be able to do the layout yourself and just kind of build the specs off of that. But starting off you want to decide whether you need to get an architect, whether you need to bring a designer in, and if you need to get permits for it. If it's just a basic renovation where you're just going to be kind of remodeling your bathroom, then obviously you don't need that. But it's a good place to start, is to decide, do I need permits? Do I need to bring someone in to do the drawings for me? So I'm just going to highlight this a little bit more because that first marker was starting to dry out a little bit. All right. So we can read that all right. So then afterwards, I just start to break down the different components of my project. So once I know whether I need to have a designer come in, whether I need to have permits created, then I can start to break down all the components. So I usually start with just breaking down if I have any demolition. If I got any demolition to do, I just kind of write down what I need to do in terms of preparing the site. So obviously when you're doing a full excavation where you're doing a dig, then you got to get rid of some stuff. If you're doing a basement renovation, for example, and you've got some existing stuff down there, you want to demolish that stuff. If it's a bathroom renovation, you're going to give some thought to what you're taking out. Kitchen renovation, same thing. You're going to give some thought to the demolition that needs to come out. Next, it's the framing aspect of things. So if you're doing a basement, then the next step, once you've got everything out of there, is you're going to start doing your framing. If it's an addition, it's a little bit different. I'll back up a little bit then. If we're doing an addition, then we're going to talk about excavating, and we're going to talk about the foundation. If we're doing that, so that would be your first step. Once you decide on your design, you get on site, and if you're starting with a big project where you're doing a full excavation, where you're putting an addition on a home or building a brand new home, then you're going to start with excavating, and then your concrete work, getting your foundation, getting your walls in, get your footings in, getting yourself ready to go. Then you're up into the framing. Once you got your framing done, then you're going to start talking about your, if we're doing a house and a big thing, then we're going to talk about our roof. That's the next thing we need to do, is we got to get that thing covered so we can start working inside. So you get your framing, you got your shell ready to go. If you're now inside, if you're just doing a bathroom or if you're just doing a basement renovation, then we're starting into the mechanical stuff. So now we can start talking about heat. We can start talking about electrical. We can start talking about plumbing. So then you start writing those different components down. What things do you need to do there? If you're doing a brand new home, brand new renovation, you want to give some thought to, where all the ducting is going to go. And you want to have that stuff first in place before you start doing your plumbing and before you start doing your electrical. Because you don't want to have your plumbing all run, you don't want to have your electrical all run, then calling your heating contractor and get him to start putting heat runs and cold air returns and stuff in, because now you got pipes, you got wires, everything in your place. So you want to start giving some thought to the process of how you want to do it. Same with the basement. If you're doing a basement renovation, you want to give the same thought to what you're going to do. Where's your heating going to go? Get your heating in place. If you need to relocate ducts, if you need to add ducts, you want to get all that stuff in place. Then you want to start doing your plumbing. You want to get all the stuff that's fixed and hard in place. Wiring is easy. You can move that around pretty much anything. So you want to do that one last. So when I'm going through my design or going through my layout, I want to give some thought to my heating, my electrical, and my plumbing. So I typically write those all underneath each other, because then I can add budgets beside them. I can start giving some thought to the hours and the time that it's going to take for me to do each of those components. So once you've got your plumbing stuff done, then you want to talk about what you're going to do now. So now once you've got all this stuff, now we can do some insulation. Once we got all our mechanical stuff done, we've got all our electrical in place, we've got plumbing in place, then we can start talking about our insulation. So again, whether you're doing a whole home, an addition, a basement, whether you're doing just a bathroom renovation or kitchen renovation, go through these processes. What are you going to demolish? What do you need to frame to get ready to go? Now do you have to redo some stuff? If you're redoing your kitchen or redoing a bathroom, you may want to relocate some of the fixtures. So you want to give some thought to where the plumbing is going to be coming out. You're going to give some thought to, if I extend my kitchen cabinets, is that going to interfere with a heat duct that's coming out of the floor? Or do I need to add something? If I take one out, do I need to put another one in someplace else? So give some thought to what that layout's going to do. And then that gets you down to this point where you can start to insulate. You can really start to finish things off, get yourself ready to go. With a whole house, with an addition, with a basement, now you're at the stage where you can start to insulate. Again, you got your permits out, you're doing everything by code so that you can get yourself or keep yourself ahead of things and get things done. So you talk about your insulation, your vapor barrier, so that's all taken care of. Now we can talk about our drywall. Now that we've got everything done up to this level, now we can start talking about covering things up. So again, whether you got a full home, if you got an entire home, you may want to bring in a contractor to do the boarding and then do the taping, which is the next stage, but you may not want to do the entire place yourself. If you do, there's videos that you can watch on drywalling and boarding if you want to do those things yourself. And I've got some great suggestions for how to do that and what you need to do when you're doing that. If it's just a small basement, that might be something that you and some friends can do, on a weekend. Get that up, because typically the ceilings are only 7 foot or 8 foot, so they're a little easier to work with. But you can begin to give some thought to closing things up. If it's just a renovation, a small renovation that you're doing in your kitchen or your bathroom, where maybe you've just opened up sections of the wall, This is the place now that you've got everything. You've retucked your insulation. You've retucked your vapor barrier as best as you can to seal things up. Now you can talk about patching things up, getting some drywall over top of there. If you're in an older home, you need to give some thought to the thickness of the walls, because if you're an older home, it might have some lath and plaster in there. So now you're dealing with 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick. So you need to think about getting 5/8 drywall or doing something a little bit thinner, furring out the wall a little bit to make everything flush and seamless. But now you can give some thought to closing up those walls. Next, we're going to talk about painting. Now that we got our drywall in and we got everything closed up, everything's patched up, ready to go, now you can start talking about painting. And it's a great time, especially if you're doing a new home or if you're doing a basement renovation or an addition. It's a great time to get some paint on the walls. I love to prime. I love getting out the sprayer and just kind of going through and just spraying the priming on. If it's a bigger job, get a primer on there, get a finish coat on there, ready to do the final stages. If it's just a smaller renovation that you're doing, it's still an excellent time, if you don't have the flooring down, to begin to get some paint on the wall, get some color on it, get your ceilings done. And then, of course, once you've got that on, then you can start, start talking about your trimming. You can start talking about your flooring. Because sometimes, those things you need to work hand in hand with, because sometimes you'll be able to get some of the flooring done, but you may not be able to get all of it. Let's say you're doing a basement renovation and you decide you want to do carpet. I mean, carpet isn't as common anymore, but there's still some people that just love the feel of carpet. So if it's carpet, it's easy to go around and get all your baseboard down, get your casings on, get everything complete. You can leave it up 3/8 to 1/2 inch, and you can just, when your installer comes along to put the carpet in, it's easy enough to tuck that underneath there and have a nice seamless job. If you're doing vinyl floor or vinyl plank floor or ceramic floor or hardwood floor, you want to do those things before you put your hardwood down. So you want to give some thought to what you're doing so that you can decide what order you're going to do these guys. Because you don't want to be, doing all your trim, getting everything done, and then say, oh, now I want hardwood. Well, now you got to butt your hardwood up to your baseboard. Now you have to put an extra cove molding or a shoe rail or something around the edge. And it's just added trim and added work and added cost. And it doesn't always look the best. I love a seamless job where we can just put the baseboard right over top of the flooring when it's complete, whether it's ceramic, whether it's vinyl plank or laminate or whatever it is. It's just nice to be able to bring that right up to the wall, put the trim over top. It just gives a nicer look. There's sometimes where that's just not, you're just not able to do that. Let's say, for example, in an older home. I live in an older home, and I have 8-inch, 9-inch baseboard, and it's 3/4 of an inch thick. Some of those aren't the easiest to get off, so I've had to go to the extra route of just putting a little extra trim around the edge when I finish my flooring. So you need to give some thought to what that's going to look like for you. And then once you've got that done, once you get your flooring done and your trim done, then you can obviously go back, do a little bit of painting, get your painting done up. You want to paint your trim, get that all sealed up, get it prepped properly. And again, we got videos where we talk about painting and talk about trim, talk about all that stuff and how to get those things prepared, ready to go. All right. So now once you've got that in, now you can talk about getting your cabinetry in. You can talk about, getting your, if you're doing a bathroom renovation, you can talk about getting that stuff in there. And oftentimes, you may leave out some of the trim, just around the cabinet so that you can butt up to it afterwards. Sometimes we just measure over, close to where it is, and then when the cabinet's ready to go in, we'll just use a multi-tool and just slice off the trim and then just fit everything in nicely. So again, it's just planning that stuff out, getting your millwork in, getting the cabinets in place, and then having that finish ready to go. Now you can start talking about getting your finishes in. So you want to get your lights hung and your plumbing fixtures in. So now you can budget the time and budget the money that you need to have that stuff done. So this is a great time to be scheduling that in once everything's all painted, your cabinet works are in, your floors are done, everything is finished. Now you can talk about bringing in, getting your fixtures done. Start hanging your lights, getting the switch plate covers put on, get your receptacle covers put on, put your sinks in, get the taps on, get the showers, the doors, all that stuff put in. That's a great place to start thinking about that. And then once you've got all that stuff done, then it's just cleaning up. And so each of these components, what I would do is I put a time and a dollar amount beside it. And so then I just have 2 rows down the side. And so each of these things, I put a time and a dollar amount in there, and I start working out my budget of what it's going to cost. So you need to do some math as you're going through there. Obviously, when you're doing your framing, you're thinking about how big it is. And so you need to have a separate sheet where you're just calculating your material list. And then once you've got your material list calculated, then you can break that down into what it's going to cost. And so once you've got that done, then you go on to your roofing, if it's applicable, your heating, electric, so anything mechanical. Again, just making budgets in here for each of these. Typically, I would have 3 lines, heating, electrical, plumbing, and have 3 lines in there. And then alongside those, I would have budgets inside. So I would have my what the cost is going to be, and then I would have my fixture budget along the side of that in each of those lines as well. So that as you're going, then you know what your budget is. And so you need to give some thought to how much you want to spend on those things. You know, don't just wait until, you know, the bathroom is ready and say, oh, now I can give some thought to what fixtures I'm putting in there. You know, how much money am I going to spend on the toilet? How much am I going to spend on my vanity? How much am I going to spend on the, you know, the shower, the bathtub, the fixtures, the faucets, all the different things that go into that? Give some thought to that ahead of time. Because like I said, there's more to renovations than just getting out the hammer and just saying, oh, this is a good day to pull the bathroom apart and start to redo it. You want to give some thought to how you're going to do that. And this is the best way to do it. It's just to break that down in, have a plumbing budget in there and just say, okay, this is how much I'm willing to spend, or this is how much I have to spend, and then start to source out. And then going on from there, same thing with insulation. You can put a time value and a dollar value along all of these different components. When you get down to the drywall, you can give some thought measuring up the place and know exactly what the square footage is so that you can order what you need. Add an extra 5 or 10% so that you've got, you know, waste covered, because sometimes it's just easier to put up a sheet of drywall and just, you know, cut out a window or cut out a doorway than it is to try to start putting in bits and pieces all over the place, because it's just going to cost you more time and energy and more seams and more stuff going on in there. So give some thought to how you're going to put that in. And again, we talk about drywall and we talk about all these different things to help eliminate some of the stress with that. Same thing with painting. It's easy just to calculate the stuff out, just measure out what you got for square footage, and you know you're going to get 400 to 500 square feet a gallon. Just calculate it out, how many coats you need to put on, and then break that down. And so again, you can start to put a time value and a dollar value in there. Trim, flooring, millwork, all the different accessories that are going to go in there. And, you know, speaking of accessories, you could probably slip that in between, you know, the lights and the plumbing. Those are, you know, maybe when you start thinking about the little accessories that you want to bring in there, especially, let's say you're just doing a bathroom renovation or a kitchen renovation. You know, you can give some thought to how you're going to, you know, what kind of access pieces and different things that you're going to bring in there. And that's a great time to start planning that in the budget. You don't want to be coming up to the end of it and say, okay, you know, what kind of pictures, what kind of mirrors, what kind of, you know, towel holders and those kind of things, because those can really add up in terms of cost. So give some thought to what those are. So I hope this helps, because this is basically the sheet that I use every time that I do things. It ends up being a couple of sheets because, like I said, I'll sit down, I'll work out the time and the dollar amount on all these different things. And then I've got separate sheets where I'm working out my material list, because that's an important thing to give some thought to as well. You know, before you can really give a dollar value to all these different components, you need to know how much material you've got going into a place. You've got to give some thought to that. So, you know, you're going to have a separate sheet of paper where you're going to, you know, take your framing, for example, if you're doing an addition, if you're doing a whole house. You know, if you're doing a whole house, I would suggest is going to, you know, the supplier that you're going to deal with. They've got people there that do material takeoff lists all the time. There's great design programs that you can use as well, that once you've got everything all measured out, you've got everything all designed, you can click a button and it just kind of gives you a material list. It gives you a framing detail and shows you or tells you exactly what you need. So there's various levels that you can, different programs that you can use to help you find that information. All right. But it's just a matter of spending some time and using this formula, using this principle, this basic outline for any project. You know, if I was, let's just break down just a small bathroom renovation. Let's just do a bathroom renovation. You know, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to talk about the demolition, because obviously you got to clean everything out of that bathroom. You want to take everything, all the towels, you want to take everything out of there. Any fixtures that are on the walls, the mirrors, anything like that, you want to take all that stuff out. Then you're going to think about how you're going to redo it. Are you redesigning it? Are you kind of enlarging an area to add a shower? Are you shortening down an area to put something in? What are you doing? Are you taking out? Are you bringing a closet in there? So give some thought to the design, you know, back to that first point of just having a design, deciding exactly what you're going to do. Then you can decide what you need to do in terms of framing. Obviously, you don't need to put a roof in a bathroom, so we can skip that one. But then you want to get into the plumbing and the mechanical stuff. You know, do you need to relocate some outlets? Are you enlarging your vanity? So you need not one outlet, but you need two outlets now because of the size of it. Are you relocating that? Do you want to move your plumbing, you know, your bathroom or your toilet rather, from the left side of the room to the right side of the room? Do you want to turn it from this wall to this wall? I mean, what do you want to do in there? So give some thought to, you know, what you need to do for the mechanicals. That means, you know, opening up floors, opening up walls, doing that kind of stuff so that you can relocate that. And then, you know, the insulation barrier and vapor barrier is just closing things up. You need to close that floor back up. You need to re-insulate now if you've had to open up walls to relocate plumbing and mechanical, and have everything all set, ready to go. Then the drywalling, you're patching, you're putting up new board. You're using the appropriate board. If you're building a shower, then you want to watch the videos on how to do the shower, how to do that area properly. And then you're into finishing, getting into painting, trimming, and so on. And each of those components you can put a dollar value to. You know, because if you're talking about your plumbing, for example, you can decide, are you going to do the plumbing yourself? Are you going to take the time to learn how to do the plumbing and do everything yourself, or are you going to call in a plumber? Because if you are, then you want to be calling them in to get an estimate. If you're not going to do the electrical yourself, you want to call in an electrician, get someone that's qualified, and get a dollar value, get a quote on what it's going to cost. And so that's all can be added in here. Your time and your dollar values can all be added in there. So regardless of how big your project is, how small your project is, you can use this formula to get you where you need to go. So I hope this helps, because like I said, this is what I've used for over 26 years. I sit down regardless of what the project is, and this is how I begin to sketch it out. From there, I build it out to exactly where I am, so I know exactly what costs are, what my material is, what time value I need to put into a project, and then get going. All right, so I hope this helps, and I wish you all the greatest success in all your renovation projects. Keep watching the videos, keep watching the stuff that we put in here. I'm actually going to talk about, watch out for the video that I talk about putting all this stuff together and how to really time it out, how to really build a solid plan. Once you've got this in place, the next step is to how to create the plan and get yourself going and see it through to the end. Because we've all seen or heard of horror stories where things get started and never get completed. And we've got formulas for that as well. So continue to watch. I'll talk to you again real soon.